Let's start with your introducing yourself.
Yeah. Tiokasi chatanzi wiki baham chaje oyate trokahe wichakie tashunke wanaki. My name is Tiokasin Ghost Horse, and I'm from the Cheyenne River Lakota Reservation in the north central part of the United States and the geographical center of North America, which we call Turtle Island. And I come from the Lakota people, namely the Mitakuye, the ﷺ, and the Ogallala. And so those are the three clans that I come from. And I host a radio program that goes out of New York City for the last 27 years, now heard on 85 FM stations in North America. Once a week broadcast, and I do many things. I retired at age 36. And I said yes to life, and so that took me around the world, still taking me around the world without me spending a dime. Right?
And so we're sitting in खेरि in Portugal with you traveling in Europe for some time?
Yeah, never a vacation though, always working, sort of work like this, and bringing the message of the earth from where I come from, and that intuitive intelligence, as I call it, that we all are looking for, those original instructions to continue sustaining our ability to live here, which we've lost very fast in the Western world. I think I could say it's because of one thing or another, but I think what I feel is that because we lack a relationship with the earth, that we've got into the rationality of that there is a greater God, or even a greater good, because that has taken us away and abstractly put us into heaven or down to hell. So in that binary thought process, we become so heavenly, we're not earthly good, and we forgot the instructions of the earth. And that's the message a lot of those who have had exposure to the Western world and have not educated the wisdom out of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because the education that comes from the Western world is one about dominating, and our knowledge of living with the earth is relationship. Mm-hmm. So to understand the coding, I guess you would say, for that language of the earth means that you cannot accept the addictive society's way of communicating and even dividing themselves and using nouns that are very much are to control your thought process. And the original way that I was told is that we didn't need an alphabet. Mm-hmm. We didn't need time concepts, mm-hmm. beginning and ending. We didn't need domination because it's not in our language. Because if you have a domination and a dogma, there's no relationship with the earth. So our language is one in relationship with the earth always. And with that, you could say the matrix of the earth shows you how much it is in relationship with the universe. And there's neither up nor down for us. It's all one anyway, except that it cannot be one unless you're related, unless it's in relationship. Because as we all are, everything has to talk to each other, communicate so that it is in relationship. And when that process is that mother nurture is interrupted, it becomes Mother Nature.
Hmm. And how is that kind of very similar to indigenous cosmologies elsewhere, or is there some essential difference?
I would take a guess in this sense, because I've studied a lot of indigenous, at the university, a lot of indigenous people's thought processes, the myth creation stories and original knowledge, and it is based primarily on the earth and how we function on a daily basis. And so when we talk about balancing what little knowledge we have, in that if you can talk to a tree in the jungle, that tree talks to something in the northern hemisphere, in the western hemisphere, talking here. So the communication we go through has always been, I would think, through water. It's not the fact that I have to believe anything, because that's another virus, is to believe. Because if you believe, you can't think.
Mm-hmm.
You're just accepting it. And that requires submission and to authority. And that the key is that I don't think in life, and we know that in life, in nature, in nurture, that they have no authority, that they have to be in a relationship. That's how and why the earth has been here for so long before the human race.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you translate this cosmology or these views into current movements, or how do you make them relevant to what's happening today?
I think because of my experiencing in this society, the ability to do that is measured because you have to measure and weigh and how much something costs according to being a pareidolik or somebody who sees only human value in trees, for instance, and if it doesn't have value to the human, then it's not worth it. You become indifferent. And so when I'm constantly trying to understand how to translate, so you have a language that I talked previously before the Westerner came to the Western Hemisphere, Westerner of Europe. They were deep into noun and subjective and objectifying a lot because of the dogma. And when they came to the Western Hemisphere, they encountered people who didn't have that God, because it was very arrogant for us to say that's God. Who are we to say that? So we found a relationship. And then in translation, if we have no nouns in our language and everything is verbs, how can there be concepts? And how can you say that's a tree when it's saying it's something else? Because you have the language of the tree or of certain stones or certain animals. You continue to practice. You continue to be practical with that language, with relationship. But what we have run into now is people trying to own that relationship, which turns into rationality because you're measuring, right? And then it turns into something of domination where the male, because they're bigger, stronger, which is not true. It's only in our head. Domination, dominate is a Sanskrit word, by the way. It has 7 infinitive verb definitions. And the last one is to colere, which means to colonize. And so they all have that similar meaning: to dominate, to subdue, to subject, to conquer. They have all of these names and definitions. So when we talk about this, I was sitting in the middle of Auschwitz and Birkenau probably 6 years ago with an elder, and I wanted to really get a definition clear of, do we have the word for or concept for domination? He quickly said no. There's no word. There's no concept for domination. He said, how could you, when you have a relational language? So this is where I say in 1930, Einstein came to the U.S. and spent time with the Hopi because he had been all over the place at that time in his life. He wanted to find out why the native people of the Western Hemisphere already knew this E equals MC squared. In my people's Lakota, so there were 6,000 languages. Now there's about 150 languages in North America. So he wanted to find out the E equals MC squared, and we've been saying it all of our lives. You heard me say it a few times, Mitakuye Oyasin. So if I could describe Mitakuye Oyasin, you would see how much I've really tried to retranslate things, and it's always changing because of the language changing in our language, where it's very sedentary in English, subjective, objectifying, and it thingifies everything, makes everything into objects, thingifies everything. So in Lakota, I could describe Mitakuye Oyasin. I would say, so the in Mitakuye means that which is relationship between you and I and all things. The E means like speaking or voicing. Da is like like a constellation. Dayam Nipa is what we call it. So, and then Ku is like giving or given. Ye is spoken from someplace before time. O is the shape of the universe, so you've seen it in motion, intense motion. Ya is again saying about the energy. Seeing is coming in, so we're basically talking about the energy speaking, being spoken from the universe that we can't even understand. So it comes in all the time, but it's in relationship because it's speaking the same language to the tree as it is to you. And how complicated and complex is that? So Mitakuye Oyasin means E equals MC squared. And he said that the 12-year-old children of the Hopi people of the southwestern Arizona at 1930 went so remote that they didn't lose their language and they never saw a book in their lives. That he went among the children and he came out and he said that these 12-year-old children, of all the children in the world that he's visited, that these 12-year-old children are the most prepared to understand the theory of relativity because they were living it, not using it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so when you use it, it becomes using reality instead of living reality. So we are in the illusion, and that illusion has taken us away from the languages of the earth. You see? And I think that's part of, I wouldn't say solution or goal, that's part of the continuum that we have to recognize that it's ongoing anyway. Because we're speaking, separating language, divisive language, by nouning everything. But there's no relationship to it. So when I reinterpret things in this English, it takes longer to reinterpret it. And I have to go there with them because that's their dominant paradigm. I have to speak their language and put it in their concepts, which is too small for Lakota. It's the box. We are here. We are outside. We have always been outside of the box, you know. And some people say I leave no room. It's like no. That's why there's native reservations in America, because they've taken our land and put us on little boxes called reservations. They may be that we may be landless, but as Native people, we're not homeless. That's the big difference. And so the consequence is that a lot of the people that came to Turtle Island, now called America, have forgotten how to grieve. They don't know how to grieve, and that's why there's separation from the earth, because the more intelligent you are, and it's easier to lie to children in the United States than it is to tell them the truth. And if you, the more intelligent, intellectual you become in that language of English and academia, well, it's easier to teach those who are ignorant, who don't have the degree of education as the academic world. The more you're able to evolve or develop words of denial. So the more intellectual, the more you can rationalize why you must keep this land called the United States or land, whatever nation, and keep denying the Native people their truth, really denying the earth. So when earth sees this, that you're taking away people or humans who can continually contact or communicate with the earth, she's like, you don't stop the communication, so she's going to teach the lesson to whoever is trying to take advantage of that situation, that the land was abundant once. Now all the rivers are polluted. There's holes and there's things going on in the big land of North America that they've shut down all the political news about what happens to Native people. And there's only, I would say there's 5 million Native people now. Not even 1% of the whole population. At one time there was 250,000 Native people left. That was at the turn of the 1900s. And now we've come back this far. But of all the peoples, we didn't strike back You know, when America went to war with Germany and Japan, they gave their land back, but they didn't give our land back. You see, but I think we know that the land we belong to is Turtle Island.
In that sort of a situation where nation states are denying people's identity and people's sense of home and so on, what do you think is how important is it for global networking and solidarity? And you've recently endorsed the Global Tapestry of Alternatives. How crucial is that kind of a process for you and your peoples?
I think it's formality. It's something we need to sign on to, so to speak, and really look at the principles that we sign up for, because I think these structures will crumble eventually. If there's a Mother Earth agenda, first and foremost, I think that would stay around a lot more, because we are able to experience what we're writing. In other words, if we're able to commit that we only drink so much water a day or eat so much a day. Yeah, I don't think recycling has anything. It has to do with our personal consumption.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was recently in Kumbh Mela, and I understood, well, there's a lot of these people jumping in the water, but, geez, I mean, what I thought about is at Standing Rock, there was a lot of people up there, but not as 128 million, maybe 14,000, but they left a big waste. I'm like, whoa. So the whole idea is, like, you may be able to light a fire with big implications, like you put the whole forest in a stack of logs and you burn it to get the attention, right? And because you want to bring people together. But the elders back home would say, build a little fire so people can stand closer together. That's what we're saying. Is that document that close? Or is it meaning to be a savior to the earth? Or
right.
A certain lifestyle, class, structure? Yeah.
Very important lesson for any global process. It has to be the local which is the important.
Yeah. I agree with that so much, because in the United States there are more trees in North America than there were 100 years ago. But there's a problem. There's 2% old growth, and all the trees are young.
Yeah.
There's less wildlife.
Yeah.
There's more domesticated life, animals in the U.S. And so you have 100 trees, but there's all these wildlife missing.
Yeah.
You know, they're young, the young generation, and they don't know how to support each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have no elders.
Yeah.
But the 2% elders of the trees, they support at least 15%, because they're old and they know how to take care. By just being there, when you cut them all down, you got a bunch of, I don't know, how do you say, adolescent trees and everything. They don't know how to take care of each other, and they'll take too much water here and there. I mean, that's what we could say. We don't know if that's true, but I think that's the reason why a lot of the animals are disappearing in North America.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your wisdom. Thank you.
Intuitive intelligence is the same as indigenous intelligence. There's no such thing as indigenous wisdom.
Okay.
You see, because that pigeonholes us.
Right.
As the wise ones, or not. We're in contact with the earth. We're in intuitive intelligence with the earth.
Right.
Uploading all the time. Not downloading. That's enough. Look what we downloaded. So let's upload from now on.
I'm going to hold that for a second just to absorb that.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.